Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there tonight and certainly having a great start to your last weekend of 2023. Here to give you some updated information about what we've been talking about over the last several days. And, we'll start off by mentioning a lot of folks saw some snow flying around this morning, even pretty far south. We're seeing it this evening also. I saw a video out of like northeast Alabama where it actually put a dusting on the ground this morning. Saw some videos of some flakes flying around like northern Atlanta. So it's pretty wild to see. And here we are, kind of entered a new pattern. This pattern does not favor any kind of blockbuster winter storms or anything like that, but this upper level low has brought some snow pretty far south. So, here we are. We'll speak a little bit on that, but not much at all. We will talk about the chance for some light snow flying around as we round off our last day of this year, moving into the first day, New Year's Day of 2024. I think that will be around. So for you folks that are snow starved across the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes region, you might see some flakes out there, a little bit of accumulation, not much at all. And then we will move forward and giving you guys some updated information about these two storm systems that we are watching. Which one will be more significant? Will there be two even at all? Is there going to be one main one? We need to figure that out, but there's two storm signals for sure out there. And then for the end of the video, we're going to give you some information. We're going to start to talk about this a little bit more as we work a little bit closer to it day by day. But I'm really watching the threat of an Arctic air mass to drop down to the western and even central U.S. Now, I know a lot of my viewers from the eastern U.S., and I know you're thinking, I don't want to hear about that, but this could eventually scoot east. So stay tuned for that. I think this will be a heavy topic as we enter our first week of our new year in January here. And I do think there could be a big storm system in the middle of the country as this boundary sets up. So we'll speak on that. But like I said, that'll be a heavier topic as we move forward because we need to figure out what's going to happen between now and then, which is those two storm signals that we are watching. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank y'all for the growth lately. It's been awesome. Almost to 60K. So thank y'all for giving me this platform to talk about what I love, as always. I want to show my appreciation for you folks. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do it and so others can do so too. So we continue to have some moisture out there in the western U.S. This is pretty much unfolding the way we expected it to. So Northern California seeing some rain and just, pretty much western areas of Oregon and Washington see it. And then some of these areas that you're seeing in green, this is actually snow flying around out here. Not a whole lot, but we are seeing it. And of course, the sun's done went down in these areas. So, as it continues to get cooler out there, which has already been a very chilly day across the southeast, some of this could accumulate if we can get bursts of heavier snow. And I think we will see that throughout later this evening into the overnight hours across maybe Tennessee, maybe even northern Alabama, and maybe northern Georgia and the Appalachian Mountains for sure. Even a little bit east and a little bit west of it especially. So we'll see what happens with that. And then we got moisture flying around the northeast, some winter weather in Maine. I think another low is going to develop, give you guys another couple inches of snow across Maine. So we'll see what happens with that. But not going to speak much on that. We're really going to dive right into the threat of some snow flying around for the Great Lakes region right now. Now, this isn't going to be a big event, but I think it's worth talking about just because a lot of people have not seen snow. But starting it off this evening, we'll just show you the NAM just because it goes out further. And I think both the NAM and the HRRR model are pretty much right on par with one another. Neither one of the models are much different than the other in this case. But we'll keep this going here. And as you can tell, I think throughout, especially as we get later into this evening, getting to around midnight, you see the blue right here in Kentucky. West Virginia, I think heavier snow will start to add up here. We'll continue to get these rounds of snow in central to especially eastern Tennessee, especially the higher elevations of Tennessee and North Carolina. You see these little splotches of blue down here in northern Alabama and North Georgia. I think that's very possible. And then we will just continue to see on and off snow showers, flurries in central and eastern Kentucky. But I will watch for a more consolidated area of snow that scoots over Ohio, maybe extreme southeast and southern sections of Indiana overnight. So we'll watch for that. Western PA, some snow flying, some moisture moving out of southern Ontario and just out the Great Lakes region. So you might go to sleep with nothing on the ground in central Ohio and surrounding areas and wake up to maybe a dusting of snow on the ground. In fact, we take it to about 6 a.m., 5 a.m. Central Time and check out all the flakes flying around the Appalachian Range into Ohio, snow flying around and, Columbus, maybe Dayton, Maybe some snow moves over the Cleveland area overnight. Snow flying around in southeast Ohio, western PA, snow flying around the Finger Lakes and southern tier region of New York as we're waking up tomorrow morning. So I definitely think it's going to be a wintry start to your last Saturday of the year for sure out here, especially in West Virginia. I really do. And maybe, I know I got a guy that always has been commenting over the last couple years. I appreciate you very much. That lives kind of in the no snow zone areas of western West Virginia. Maybe you get a little bit of snow as you're waking up tomorrow morning. But I mean, we're waking up tomorrow morning, it's still snowing in these areas. We get a stout area of light to moderate, at times heavy snow flying around in eastern Kentucky. So like I said, I kind of mentioned this on Twitter, social media, and this morning. This is kind of one of those long duration light events. Now, I do think up here, and I don't want to leave you guys hanging up here in New England, I do think that, as we're getting into tomorrow morning, I think the NAM's overdoing this a little bit. But, man, you got an all-out period of some snow flying around in the northeast, northern sections of New Hampshire, Vermont, and then just central New York State. You got some snow flying around. This will taper off quick for New York State. And then you'll just have a moderate snow event across Maine throughout tomorrow afternoon, and then this heads out. But you flip it back to the Great Lakes region. This isn't the Great Lakes. Well, it technically is, but I always like to use the Ohio Valley tab more. But one thing I'll watch is another system that moves down. This could deliver, as we're getting into late tomorrow, some snow around the Minneapolis area, starting to get into western Wisconsin. It's a very small kind of just almost a clipper type system, kind of like an upper level low, just a piece of energy. We'll just call it that. Swinging through, waking up Sunday morning, got some snow flying around in Milwaukee, maybe Janesville, Madison, the Davenport region in this area, Iowa City, some snow moving through the Rochester region of Minnesota. I'm just trying to spit out some names out here in the Midwest, and we keep this going all the way through about midday Sunday. Maybe some snow flying around for New Year's Eve in Chicago. Snow flying around Indiana, Indianapolis, some snow showers. I think there'll just be a lot of rounds of light snow out here. Maybe some bursts of heavier snow throughout the state of Michigan, even up here in the UP of Michigan. And we're starting to get into our New Year's Eve festivities of the evening. I mean, check it out. Might have snow flying around as you're wrapping up your last evening of 2023. Maybe a snowy evening in Ohio, areas of Indiana, Michigan. Getting into western PA again. Just another round. This is a pretty vigorous piece of energy. It's just not connecting anything to the south, so it's nothing huge. But we take it all the way down to 60 hours out, right when the ball's dropping. This is around 1 a.m. Eastern time, about midnight. Ball's dropping. Got flakes flying around. Start the new year. Maybe even can get some flakes again down here in the Cumberland Plateau. So we'll watch for this. The National Weather Service saying this is going to be a pretty light event. This takes us all the way through the 1st of January here in the next few days. Some of this is still adding up what happens with this first system, but all this right here is with this second system. So just scattered very light amounts, not a whole lot. Green Bay going for about an inch, Milwaukee maybe half an inch, a few tenths of an inch here in Chicago, northern Indiana maybe an inch. Half inch, and just very light amounts. I think a dusting to anywhere from an inch and a half is at most with this piece of energy. Could add up a little bit more in areas of western New York. We'll give you some updated information on that. I think if you pick this weekend to go to really anywhere across the southern Alps of West Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, if you chose to go up there just to see if you could catch some snow or ski country or whatever you may be doing, you picked a good weekend. It really is. It's going to be a wintry weekend up there. It'll be a chilly weekend. There'll be actually snow flying around, not just from machines, but from the sky. So certainly just a very small little event. Now going past this, okay, at this point, we're starting it off at 12Z Wednesday, the 3rd of January. That means it's Wednesday morning. Here comes another system. And the reason I don't have the central U.S. in this is because I don't think this first system is going to be a big system for y'all at all. I do think this could be a little bit further north than what this is showing, but this is starting off as just good old rain down here in Louisiana, Mississippi. A little bit of maybe a mix up here in Missouri. We'll see how that unfolds. But we start to get into Wednesday midday. Here's what the GFS is showing for this first signal. Rain down here for the deep south, and then we're starting to get into Wednesday evening. It's cold enough, just cold enough in the higher elevations of North Carolina and Tennessee for this to fall some wet snow Wednesday evening. This is just rain for, Louisiana all the way to South Carolina. Okay, You're starting to get this into the overnight hours of Wednesday into Thursday morning. It is cold enough. A lot of times these events overachieve. I'll just say that. But there is some northern stream energy. And remember we were talking about that this morning. Northern stream energy up here, southern stream energy down here. They are starting to meet, but they're not, it's not phasing together as vigorous as it was maybe 12 hours ago. But we got time to tweak this back and forth. This first system could end up still being a big one. I don't think it's going to be a big one. I think at most it'll be a moderate storm system, whatever your criteria of moderate is. Mine would be just a system that could deliver a few inches of snow and just another rainmaker. I definitely think that this has the potential for the southern Alps region to dump a few inches of wet snow down here. But as we keep this going, they begin to kind of flirt with one another. Okay, but this system down here needs this cold air injection from this for it to turn into a significant winter weather event for the Northeast. But you start to get into Thursday morning, just a chilly rain for the Mid-Atlantic, upper and southeast region, some snow making its way through the Ohio Valley. And you keep this going, and there's the low right here off the coast of the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic. There's a low up here from the upper energy, and they're not really meeting anywhere. See this gap in between where there's nothing going on. This is getting into Thursday evening. This northern piece of energy is strong enough on its own to deliver just another light snow event across the Great Lakes region, interior sections of the Northeast, but they never link up. They finally do once we get into Atlantic Canada. New Brunswick will watch Nova Scotia, and it could, as we get into Friday morning, next Friday morning, about 6-7 days from now, could all of a sudden turn into a big winter storm for Maine. But it seems like Maine's just about the only state right now in the eastern U.S. getting any kind of snow. I say that, and we're getting snow in northern Alabama right now, but I'm talking about like accumulating snow. What about the Euro? What is it showing? Kind of the same thing. All right, let's start off down here. I don't want to skip my friends here in Louisiana and eastern Texas. Raining in eastern Texas Wednesday morning, Louisiana. Getting into Wednesday afternoon, there's just rain down here for the deep south states. There's the northern stream energy up here, kind of dancing around. And this turns into just a chilly rain for Georgia, the Carolinas, as we're getting into overnight Wednesday into Thursday. The timing is about the same on the models now, but they're just not phasing this energy. So you stop it here, you get into Thursday morning, you see that 540 line, you can see some cold air working down in the upper levels of the atmosphere, but it's not there at the surface for this green to be blue, which is snow. But you still got the northern stream energy shooting across the Great Lakes region. It's a cold air injection across the Great Lakes region, so it's kick-starting that lake effect energy in the form of snow. We can finally start to build back our snowpack up here because it's not even up there anymore. It's been obliterated by these warmer than average temperatures. But I think these light to moderate events that will be moving in over the next couple of days and weeks will start to add up the snow a little bit more again. But we keep this going. You can tell, there's a little light snow trying to get going here in southern New England. And you keep this going, but it's a miss, just like the GFS. It's the miss. You got a stronger low pressure off the coast, but they do not connect. So therefore, it's pretty much a whiff here. But you can see these two areas of energy. And there's our first one that we talked about for the Great Lakes region as we get into New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I mean, that's a pretty nice piece of energy, a nice piece of vorticity right into here, but it just really doesn't connect with anything. It never digs. It's really strung out is what we say. But here comes first storm system, energy here, energy there. You can see it pretty clearly on the map. Now, what happens here is this first area of energy gets strung out and it just misses down here, which is going to stay the same. The southern stream is active, it's popping off, and it's just rocking and rolling. Here comes another piece of energy that you think is about to phase with this energy down here, but they don't really connect. They don't connect in time. They finally connect on the Euro on off the coast of the eastern U.S. into the North Atlantic. But it's just too late at that point. And it's pretty much the same look as the GFS. Now here it is. Here's a big area. Big low right here coming up. This is some big southern stream energy. This is the next topic. But I will round off by giving you guys the signal for this first storm on the European ensemble. And here it is. There's that first signal for the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day kind of light snow event across the Great Lakes region, Ohio Valley. There it is. Okay, and this is I'm showing you this in 24-hour increments. So this is the ensemble run with just what snow looks like I said, in just 24-hour kind of sections. So I think this is the best way to show it, and here's the signal for that first storm. Okay, it's kind of everywhere, but it's combining all 51 runs to create a mean. So this is what it looks like, and there's a signal. Notice, there is a little bit of a signal for like upper portions of the Deep South, which is northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, Arkansas. Okay, and you keep this going, and the signal is decently solid for the southern Alps region. 1 inch, 2 inches of snow. And there is a signal still up here for the Northeast with this first storm. This tells me that some members are still trying to phase this together, but it's not a hefty snowfall signal. It really isn't. So we'll watch that. What about the system behind it? European, here it comes right here. There goes the first system exiting, and then another one immediately enters the picture. And look, the Euro right out the dot as we get literally a week from today. A week from today, we will already be done with the first system. This tells you how active the pattern is. We'll already be trying to figure out the second system. And here it comes. Low right here. This is delivering a snowstorm for Amarillo. All right, we keep this going. This upper level low energy is dumping heavy wet snow in northern Texas, southern Oklahoma. Not a forecast. Man, I've gotten almost 20 minutes into this, and it's only the first time I said it. Shame on me. But not a forecast. Low starting to cut across Louisiana. Okay, it's running out of cold air. You notice that 540 line's way up here. Remember, that doesn't mean it's freezing at the surface. Freezing aloft in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Still cold enough for this upper level low portion of this low, because this is a pretty strong Gulf low, to deliver some heavy wet snow sometime 7-8 days from now in Arkansas. There's a lot of local meteorologists in Arkansas kind of flirting with the idea of something coming up over the next week or so. This low continues. Beautiful track initially, and it still is. I mean, we're starting to get into, we're kind of into the evening of the 6th into the 7th. So pretty much, let's just go on and say Sunday morning, because this will kind of move back and forth in time. We got a low right off the coast of South Carolina. If you had cold air in place, guys, this would be a rocking and rolling winter storm for the southeast, even outside the mountainous regions. But you have no cold air in place. It's all up here. It's not even a lot, even up there. Rain, chilly rain at that, okay, for areas of the southeast. And, it's just a little bit of ice for the mountains. We go on and just get a little bit closer to this, really, so you guys can see. It's kind of hard to look at, but there it is, rain for the Carolinas, and then we take it to Sunday morning. I mean, you got to get pretty high up there in elevation to even get any winter weather. And it looks like just ice. 997 millibar low, chugging inland, and it really deepens here. But there's no cold air. None. No cold air with this. And I think that's going to be the common theme with both of these systems. If you get a cold air injection to the second system, I think the second system definitely is a bigger system than the first. Just ain't got a whole lot of cold air. So what about for the GFS? Let's kind of zoom in right into here. We're going to do some things on the fly here. Here comes the system in the GFS. Same thing with the Euro, guys. I mean, we're getting into, Friday morning. Next Friday morning. It's about 6.5, 7 days out. Shows snow for Texas. Look at that. It's January 5th, Friday midday. And then you continue to go. Kind of the same evolution as the Euro, right? I mean, this is obviously in the shorter term because it's further west and our systems move west to east. You keep this going, here goes the low. It's further south, 998 millibar low in the northern portion of the Gulf. As we're getting into next Saturday morning, about 8 days from now, 7.5, 8 days. It's cold enough just north of this precipitation to be a wintry mix. Now we're going to switch it to the east for this. Here it comes, low, riding up. China kind of begins to cut inland. Look at this. Look at the snow. Saturday morning in northern and central Mississippi, northern Alabama, and Tennessee is cold enough for snow, wet snow at that. Please don't tell everybody and their cousin it's going to snow next Saturday morning in Mississippi. It's just one run. It's one scenario that the GFS is showing. And then this turns into a pretty big doozy of a winter storm next Saturday for the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, and even the Cumberland Plateau. It's just cold enough for snow. Puking snow at like 32, 33 degrees in these areas. It's very close to snow in areas of the upstate of South Carolina, Charlotte, but it is the GFS. 999 millibar low, sub 1,000 millibar low, getting in the next Saturday evening off the coast of South Carolina. Pretty strong low indicated by the GFS and the Euro. And there's even guidance supporting this on the Canadian. I just don't have it up. So I think all in all with the second system, both models agree that you're going to have a pretty strong low. There's just not a lot of cold air off the GFS. There's more cold air involved. In fact, the latest GFS really improved with the cold air injection with this. But this turns into a pretty significant winter storm for areas right in here. But it doesn't climb up the coastline. Nothing can pull it up. So it literally just kind of goes west to east and then heads on out. Never quite makes it to Washington, D.C., northward where there's better cold air. If this was to ride up like this, certainly would have a winter storm threat for the northeast. Not the case. Now, what about the European ensemble with this? There's the signal right there. It's not very strong off the European ensemble. I mean, there is a signal right here. This is it. Remember, 24-hour increments. It kind of maximizes again over Arkansas, but not much in the way of actually maximizing. But here it comes on your screen, and you can barely see it. It kind of like skips over Tennessee, but there's a signal right into here. And then the signal gets much larger, actually, for the northeast. Like, there's almost a lot of members phasing it up here, bringing it up. So that's interesting. What about the GFS ensemble? And let's make sure we got this going here. What about the GFS ensemble for this storm system? Here we go. You know, you got a signal a little bit further south in Texas, but it's not a very big signal at all. It's like an inch of snow at most. And then you can see it kind of scattered about across areas of the south, but it's much further south. What does that signal look like for the eastern U.S.? As you can tell, it kind of maximizes over areas of North Carolina, Virginia, areas of Tennessee, right into here. For next weekend, doesn't do much for the northeast. So we will continue to watch that, guys. I think one of them could end up delivering a moderate winter storm for somebody. I do. I would say the second one, just because it's a stronger low. Now, this morning I said I like the first one with more cold air involved, but I just think that unless you phase the storm systems, you're not going to get a big storm system, because the southern stream energy on the first storm is not as strong as the southern stream energy on the second one. You can see both pieces of energy here. Here's the first storm system, right in the blue, and this is starting off next Wednesday evening. First storm system in the blue. This is our lower pressure, indicating storminess and coldness. If that's a word, coldness. Just storminess and coolness here. This is our second storm system coming in. Active southern jet rolling through here. Okay, kind of just a wonky looking pattern. Not a very cold pattern. So this lower pressure moves on out right here, and then here comes our second storm right into here. There's no real big cold air supplying this, so it's just riding the southern jet. Here it comes. That's our second storm signal right into here, the lower pressure. What happens after that? And not a lot of people are talking about it as much as these two storm systems, and I don't blame them, because once we get past this, we start to get past 7 days out. We're starting to get in that 7 to 10 day range. But what's really blowing my mind, I've talked about this, we're going to talk about a lot more. This is kind of the part of the video where we talk about the longer range. It's really blowing my mind how consistent the ensembles have been, the model guidance has been, about a huge trough digging out west and eventually into the eastern U.S. And you can see it. What happens here is blocking sets up over Greenland, little negative NAO action. Okay, this dislodges cold air and basically buckles the jet all the way down to the western U.S., causes a big jet dig into the western U.S. Our storm track basically digs down here. This allows cold air and storminess right into the western U.S. What I think is going to happen with this is I think we're going to get, and this is the European ensemble, we're going to get Arctic air that spills down to the western U.S. So my folks that do tune in from out there, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, I think you got some Arctic air coming as we start to get into the second week of January. This digs down. I think there's going to be some kind of big storm system with this. And I know the blue, you're thinking that's a lot of cold air. And, it is. But I think the one thing you watch out for is how cold is it going to be at the surface. And I think eventually it does work to the surface. You take it all the way to about 10 and a half, 11 days out. You see how this big blue blob right here begins to shift into the central U.S.? That's what we call a cross-polar flow. So you're getting a flow of cold air from the Arctic straight down into Canada, our cold air source region, cooling it down because the snowpack got obliterated by the Pacific air over the last several days. And we've been talking about that for about 10 days now. But this trough digs all the way down into Mexico. Doesn't mean we're going to get snow in Mexico. We could. But man, That is a huge trough dig right in here. Some type of storm system associated with it. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then I'll say this, I am 90% confident a huge trough with a lot of cold air is going to dig into the western U.S. If I'm wrong about that, I'll eat the crow. My confidence begins to decrease on what happens in the central U.S. I'm pretty confident it'll move into the central U.S. too, but it dramatically decreases about the eastern U.S. Does this trough, shift eastward? Does the cold air come eastward? That's a big question. I think we'll know a lot more about that as we get into about the early portion of next week. But the European ensemble says yes, this will dig into the central and eastern U.S. And I think that we will have an active storm track, and I think we will have a lot better of a cold air supply getting several more days into January. I'm talking about like the mid-January time frame. Like, I always consider the 10th through the 20th is a mid portion of a month. I call that mid-month of whatever month it is. Cold air supply feeding down to this. Okay, you can draw on this a little bit. Cold air supply, you probably got a storm track going like this. It could be going like that, depending on where the trough digs. Cold air supply coming down. You're probably going to have, with just such an active storm track right now, you're probably going to have a storm system. And if you look at temperatures compared to average, you'll start off next Saturday morning. Look at the colder than average temperature showing up. That green, guys, that's anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees below average temperature-wise. So you're finally cooling down what's been a very warm compared to average Canada. And look at the cold air. It's oozing down. This is the European ensemble too. And look, you go all the way, it's about the evening of the 9th. This is when this is. Look at these below average temperatures. And this is an ensemble run too. It's not going to be as crazy as an operational run. But it is showing well below average temperatures setting up all the way down to Mexico, central U.S., and eventually it oozes east to the point where, and this is far out, but to the point where almost the entire country, the lower 48, is below average temperature-wise. Okay? And talking about that storm system that I'm pretty confident is going to happen. We can only go out 240 hours out on the Euro, but you can already see the beginning stages of it. You already got a 998 millibar low in the Panhandle of Texas 10 days from now, based off this run of the Euro. Okay, that's not this Monday morning, but next Monday morning. So not this coming Monday morning, but the Monday morning of the 8th. I think there's going to be something big that's going to happen in the central U.S. I don't know what that is going to be. I could be totally wrong. But I do think there'll at least be a moderate storm system. I think there could be a big storm system. Now the Euro, this goes past 240 hours out, right? And here it is. It already has a storm system getting going right over the middle of the country. Snowstorm over Nebraska. Has a low bringing a snowstorm into Minneapolis. It has another low developing. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. That's an Arctic boundary setting up right here. I keep talking about it. That's a boundary. Right here, you got L's moving across this boundary. Active storm track. They're cutting across the country. But anybody on the cold side of that has a chance to get a lot of winter weather. Okay? Y'all, I know you folks in Texas and Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, I know y'all remember what happened in February 2021. That's exactly what it was. And a very slow-moving Arctic boundary set up, and you had pieces of energy that rode the boundary. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm saying that this is what it's showing on this model run particularly. So you kind of keep this going. This low moves out. This low kind of moves in. 988 millibar low right over Missouri. And just a whole lot of rain on the eastern side. I think we're going to get a warm-up as we get kind of past the 8 to 9 day range in January in the eastern U.S. And I know you're thinking, man, we've been warm. But I think this is just the way this is going to evolve. I really do. A lot of rain in the eastern U.S. It tries to show like every state in the eastern U.S. seeing rain 11 to 12 days from now. I don't think that's the way it's going to unfold, but you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a lot of energy. And you see when these blue lines get really close to each other like this, that's a lot of cold air. It's a lot of Arctic air moving down. There's another low right here. And yeah, the GFS goes bonkers with an Arctic air mass coming up. And that is one heck of a boundary setting up right here. So, I'll show you this just to show you. But this is what temperatures compared to average looks like on an operational run And it shows you exactly what I kind of been mentioning. I don't know if this is the way it's going to happen, but look at this. You got fire and ice against each other. Above average temperatures in the eastern U.S., Arctic air, well above average. Well below average temperatures. Well below average temperatures in the central and western U.S. I'm talking about 20 to 30 degrees below average in January. Is frigid, guys. And, this just keeps on oozing east. So, it's something we have to watch. You look at the 8 to 14 day range, guys. It's already starting to show below average temperatures into the western U.S., even areas of the south central in the 6 to 12 day range. I expect the confidence to increase on that in the next few days. I do. And, here's another look at the temperature anomalies. And this is as far out as it goes on the Euro. It goes 10 days out. But you can already see, if you look way up here on your screen, you can see the Arctic air starting to come down out of, in fact, there's already below average temperatures over the western U.S. at 10 days out. But you can see a reinforcing shot coming down here. I'll leave it at this, too. I kind of showed you this in this morning's video, I believe. Risk of heavy snow. Look how they've introduced this area right in here between the 6th and the 10th. This is another this kind of backs up what I think about a big storm system over the middle of the country. You still got this between the 6th and the 12th. That's a pretty huge range. Just a risk of heavy snow. So we'll watch this. That's all I got, guys. Y'all have a wonderful evening. And, of course, I'll talk to you in the morning. God bless.